Alright, now it is time for analysis of production. Jobs and careers. Who is involved in creating text and preparing it for reproduction? The animation director, who in this case is Jeff Lynch. The animation director is the person who is in charge of every aspect of animation that is produced. The animation director interacts with the other divisions working on the production of narrative. There is a chance that they are able to personally enlist animators to help with the production of the animation. They are the people in charge of looking after how well the animation looks and becoming dependable by constantly producing good work. They have to fully understand the way the characters behave and how they move, and be aware of what the budget is so they don't go over it, and make sure everything is on schedule. They also have to personally look over what the animators do so there is no continuity errors. And they have to make sure that all of the animation required is produced. Your animation directors almost always need to have a job as an animator before they become an animation director. They need to have talent and experience and need to communicate with people in other divisions of production about what is needed for the animation and how it should end up looking. To get into the industry, you don't need a degree, but it's very, very helpful if you have a post-secondary education animation degree. And once you have an animation job, in order to get to become an animation director, you just got promoted. A scriptwriter in this case is Greg Daniels, and a scriptwriter who writes for television comes up with the plot of an episode and decides what characters, circumstances, and diction will be used in the episode. The writer presents the original idea to the executive producer, and he looks over every rewrite and changes the script, and he cares about the quality of the production and often consults with other departments working on narratives so that the story ends up being successfully portrayed to the writer's vision. They work very closely with other writers, exchanging ideas and jokes to ensure that the episode will be received warmly by audiences and be believable. They often help look after casting characters with the casting director and help look after the post-production with the editors, just to make sure everything goes smoothly. They're very important, and they often help line producers hire people to work the episode. Writers have to have a speculative screenplay as an example of their writing to give to hiring producers in order to show off their skills. A speculative screenplay must be able to fully showcase a writer's comprehension of the format in which television episodes are written and be expertly done so that a producer will be impressed with the high level of quality. It is not an easy industry to get into because there are few openings, and only the best of the best can become scriptwriters. So if you're a scriptwriter, you're really good at doing what you do. In post-secondary education, people often take courses in journalism or creative writing and get a master's degree in scriptwriting, but of course none of this is required. Then there's the executive producer, who in this case is David Merkin. There's also Matt Groening, Sam Simon, and James L. Brooks that are executive producers, and I'm talking specifically about the executive producer who is the showrunner, which is David Merkin. He is the showrunner, makes all the decisions when it comes to production, all the executive decisions, which is why it's called the executive producer. Person who is in charge of all aspects of production and work to make sure that the episode is a success, and they are in charge of hiring and firing each employee. They are able to choose which the storylines will be in each season, and they will be able to cast characters with the help of the writers and the casting directors. They make sure that their writers write appropriate scripts that are believable, and the editors make the final product as flawless as they can. There are often many executive producers on the show, but there's usually just one in charge, like David Merkin, and makes the important decisions. Executive producers are often writers before they become executive producers, and they have to be promoted in order to become an executive producer. Then there are the editors, which are Mark McJimsey and Don Barroso. A television editor puts together many different frames of animation in order to create a complete narrative. Editors polish up the footage given to them and give it complete structure. They use computers to blend the footage with the sounds and the effects. Often forced to clean up footage to make it presentable, because sometimes the footage just isn't presentable to be put on television, and they have to go and clean it up. So that's one of the more difficult aspects of the job. They have to understand how to weave a story and make it presentable, because they have to make sure the final product is as successful as possible. They are the main people who work on the post-production of the narrative. The choices that editors make while editing ultimately become what the audience ends up seeing in the episode. They have to consult with the directors and the writers so that everyone's vision ends up being shown and showcased in the episode. They have to have a strong imagination so that the images can be put together in a creative manner. There is no specific criterion to become a television editor. However, it is a safe bet for someone to get an art, media, tech, or film information master's degree from post-secondary education. Of course, none of this was required, but the best bet to become a television editor is to get work experience as a camera operator or a camera operator assistant, and they have to be technologically gifted and adaptable because of all the advancements in the technology for television editing. And now comes to the studio production manager, Anne Ting. She is a hero because the studio production manager is one of the most difficult jobs ever. You have to do everything. The production manager is in charge of organizing all parts of the production. They prepare the schedules to be certain that everyone has enough time to finish their aspect of production and make sure they communicate their understanding of the budget told to them by the producers. They have to help the producers with the production so that the narrative can be made in the most practical way without going over budget. They are the main person in charge of the department of production and have to converse with all department heads in order to make sure that the production goes smoothly and that the episode turns out to be really well done. They have to make sure the production doesn't go over budget. They have to make sure that everything goes without a hitch. They have to make sure that the actors are not having any issues working on which days, and they have to contact the producers to reassure that everything is on schedule every day. They have to make quick decisions to make sure that nothing goes wrong because they don't want production to halt. They have to make sure that nobody is being overworked or breaking contract, because if something ends up happening that was not supposed to happen, they have to work with the producers and directors to come with an alternate contingency plan. They often start off working as assistant floor managers and work their way up to floor manager and then location manager and finally production manager. They may have also worked as a script supervisor or another job with production before becoming a production manager. Production managers and line producers have very similar jobs and often are interchangeable. They have to be able to communicate very well because they converse with people a lot on a regular basis. They have to learn all of the technical aspects that are being used in production so that they know that everything is being used correctly and that there's no problems with liability. They have to be organized in order to be able to solve problems very quickly, and they also have to be able to be trained in first aid and health and safety. No specific degrees are needed to be a production manager, but it's helpful if they have a post-secondary degree in media and have knowledge about how a television series is produced. Now it is part B, factors of production, and now we're talking about the gatekeepers. I don't like gatekeepers. They're really, really bad. The main gatekeeper that controls access to production and distribution in The Simpsons is 20th Century Fox, specifically the Vice President of Broadcasting Standards for Fox Network. They have a complete dominance over what is broadcast and what is not broadcast in The Simpsons. If they do not like it, it's probably not going to be aired. I mean, they could dislike jokes like that wasn't funny, but I'm talking about offensive material that may corrupt the minds of our children. Oh. Luckily, the gatekeepers at Fox are not very harsh, and they often allow jokes in The Simpsons that make fun of Fox, so that's pretty cool. But there have been some incidents that are a little questionable, like June 1999. 4 months after the episode Sunday Bloody Sunday aired, Roland McFarland, who was the Vice President of Broadcast Standards at the time, asked them to change a reference to the Catholic Church changing to become sexier in the episode to a reference to perhaps another church. This was brought on by the fact that earlier in the season, Alec McBeal made a joke about priests and pedophilia, and they didn't want another problem to be made with the Catholic Church. The difference between these two situations is that Ally McBeal was able to keep their joke in all further broadcasts, yet The Simpsons had to change it to say just the church. It's actually, I know, it says that. It says the church, we've made a few changes, but it's supposed to say the Catholic Church, we've made a few changes. I actually have seen the episode. And they were forced to change the joke, and this shows that the gatekeepers have a lot of control and do whatever they want, whenever they want. The controllers of distribution are the same people who control the access to production and distribution. The product is distributed from the factory to the consumers by first being taken to Fox headquarters after post-production is finished at Sony Pictures Studios, because that's where it's produced, because James L. Brooks is the main producer of The Simpsons, and he works for Sony. The Broadcasting Standards Vice President then reviews the finished product and tells the creators of The Simpsons whether it is appropriate for broadcast or not. If it is not, the creators have to edit out all the horrible parts that may corrupt people, and then they have to resubmit it. But if it's fine, then they just choose an air date and then distribute it on all Fox stations in the USA on that date, and then all stations that broadcast The Simpsons internationally. As referenced in the episode I am analyzing, there is only one real alternative for independent production and distribution, and that is public access television. But no one's going to end up watching your work, so what's the point? So you want something to be aired on television, you're going to have to sell a little bit of your soul to the devil. Ownership and control. The company that controls the organization that makes The Simpsons is the media conglomerate News Corporation. They own 20th Century Fox and many other different companies. The main priority of News Corporation is to gain profits in everything they put on the market. In fact, if you type in the word priorities into their search engine, the News Corporation website, the only thing that comes up is talk about money and profit and revenue. News Corporation does not explicitly advertise what their standards, priorities, and values are, so the information was not easy to find. Monopoly ownership is a bit of an issue, considering that News Corporation is a media conglomerate and wants to gain as much profit as possible from each product, show, or movie that they release. And foreign ownership is also a bit of an issue, since News Corporation is based in Australia, and The Simpsons is shown to be an American television series. Cross-promotion, merchandising, and tie-ins are definitely part of the business plan. There have been a movie made about The Simpsons, a few video games such as The Simpsons Road Rage, many dolls, many books, and many t-shirts. The Simpsons used to be the spokespeople of Butterfinger candy bars, where Bart was known to have said, "Nobody better lay a finger on my Butterfinger." The quality of the text may end up being less than subpar if the conglomerates force the animators to focus too much on the business aspect, but luckily at The Simpsons they have really talented directors and animators, and most of the episodes are very well made. Now for technology. In order to make The Simpsons, the storyboards that have been laid out by the animators are made into colorless drawings that are called frames. The frames are then filmed by a camera and edited by cutting the negatives together and sent to Korea, because it's cheaper to do labor there, and then they're colored there, and the frames are then reshot by a camera and sent back to the United States to be edited. The type of animation that was used on The Simpsons at the time was the cell or cellulose acetate animation, and that was the type of sheets used for painting the transparent frames. The cell process is very long and drawn out, and that is why The Simpsons takes 9 months to fully produce. It is relatively expensive to shoot an episode of The Simpsons in the cell format because it takes a long time, and there has to be many individually animated frames, both penciled in and colored in 2 different countries. However, the technology is not too flashy and does not take away from the story and heart of The Simpsons episodes. The technology used to make the episode of The Simpsons that I am watching, Homer Badman, is outdated because in the episode Special Edna aired on January 5th, 2003, the series changed its animation style from normal cell animation to digital ink and paint. Now, all episodes are made digitally and actually now in high definition. It's a change that was made in 2009. It is much more accessible to get the software used to animate The Simpsons that they have now because it's on the computer, but it's much more difficult to get the software that they used in the 90s because it wasn't actually software, it was cellulose acetate, which isn't easy to find and not cheap. One other type of technology used to make The Simpsons is the microphone, and it records what the voice actors say, and the technology has been relatively similar throughout the years, and it's pretty simple to find a microphone in everyday life. It's probably not as high quality as what The Simpsons use, but a lot of computers nowadays have microphones built into them. And next, we're going to be talking about analysis of audience. I know, this has been a lot, and it's probably really boring for you, and I'm just trying to be as thorough as possible. And let's hope that this actually recorded, because I've had to record this twice now.